Last time on Low Budget Binge.
This one is schlocky to the core. Feels like a period piece version of Carrie, no pun intended. It's hard to empathize with these two pretty people in peril. Then another classmate explodes. And another. You just wonder what she sees in the schlub. He begins to give in to the stress and starts drinking again. Even when she's vomiting up dirt, she looks great. Big boobs.
And now, the next death-defying chapter of Low Budget Binge.
Welcome back to ML Miller Frights, a part of the Kings of Horror Network. I'm ML Miller. While you might be watching this video on the Kings of Horror Network, I urge you to click over to my ML Miller Frights page and give it a like, share with your buddies across the electronic superhighway, click subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. Please get the word out to new folks so we can make the Kings of Horror Network, as well as ML Miller Frights, bigger and better. Be on the lookout for a new Kickstarter campaign for an anthology I participated in called Nightmare Theater. This is a collection of short horror stories made by a whole gaggle of talented souls. The project is being helmed by David Schrader and Clay Adams. I paired up with my pirouette artist extraordinaire Carlos Granda for a morbidly fun morality tale to filmgoers who dare break the rules of common courtesy in the wrong theater. If you're interested in fun, scary, and gory horror, please support the Nightmare Theater Kickstarter campaign. Look below for the link. Low Budget Binge is where we venture down the paths less traveled and look at low budget, no budget, do-it-yourselves, and sometimes international films that never get that top billing you see in the usual Hollywood releases. I'll indicate in the review and down below where you can find these films along with their trailers. Here we go. Shark Encounters of the Third Kind is new on-demand and digital download from Wild Eye Releasing. It's directed by Mark Polonia and written by John Oak Dalton. When a severed head is found on a beach, the Harbor Patrol and a local psychiatrist want to find out what happened. Meanwhile, a sunken U-boat has lured all kinds of treasure hunters in search of lost gold to the area. When a UFO crashes in the harbor, they use mind control to turn sharks on the populace. But the sharks will not be pawns of the aliens for long. And that leads to a good old sharks versus aliens showdown. I wish this film were as epic as the poster suggests. But no. No, it's not. Not at all. Nope. Director Mark Polonia has churned out 60 movies and counting, including Sharkenstein, Bigfoot vs. Zombies, Land Shark, Feeders, and the Camp Blood series. All of them DIY flicks that make most low-budget horror look like Shakespeare directed by Scorsese. Yes, Shark Encounters of the Third Kind is a stinkeroni with extra cheese, full of awkward pauses, uncomfortably long takes on ladies stripping down to their bikinis, vague science jargon, and the worst special effects you're going to see, as most of the shark attacks are either done by bad shark puppets or stock footage. Still, the script occasionally dances around clever, and in no way does this film attempt to take itself seriously. I actually laughed a bit at the hate banter spoken between the sharks and the aliens, as well as the rudimentary look of the sharks and the tech the aliens use to influence them. This one knows it's bad and seems almost proud of it. For that, I found myself quite entertained. Do I feel smarter having seen Shark Encounters of the Third Kind? Quite the opposite. But still, I can't find it in me to hate it. I was surprised at how bad, yet watchable, the final moments of this film were as the sharks turn on their alien overlords. Shark Encounters of the Third Kind is still going to be a tough recommend to most besides those who love DIY and extra cheesy horror. This is beyond Sci-Fi Channel bad cinema, but I know there's an audience out there for this harmless, no-brainer, and no-budget style plopper. No Such Thing as Monsters is new on demand and digital download from Uncorked Entertainment. It's directed by Stuart Stanton and written by Stanton and Karen Elgar. Mary, played by Angel Giuffria, and David, played by Matthew Clark, are a happy couple on a trip to the Australian countryside. Though Mary dislikes travel and hates small places, she agrees to rent a camper and go see the sights with her boyfriend. They find a secluded area and settle in, but their place is disrupted when another group of campers arrive close to their camp. What Mary and David don't know is that this eccentric family are quite loony and very deadly. No Such Thing as Monsters is another Texas Chainsaw Massacre-style ripoff. It isn't a family of cannibals that Mary and David happen across, but they are still homicidal maniacs. Filmmaker Stuart Stanton and his co-writer Karen Algar try to make each of these members interesting, but only succeed with one or two of them. Amy, Georgia Crisfeld Smith, is the youngest of the siblings, suffering from a skin disorder and covered from head to toe in clothing. She looks like a living rag doll and is definitely one of the more disturbing aspects of No Such Thing as Monsters. Had the film focused on Amy, maybe giving her more of a stronger presence as a leader of the clan or something like that, I think it would have been much more interesting. But Amy serves as the Leatherface of the group, simple-minded and childlike, who lashes out like a toddler when crossed. When the family takes Mary and David hostage, I was hoping there'd be a point to all of this mayhem, but that point doesn't come to light until much closer to the hour mark. And when it's revealed, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. Besides the design of Amy, the best part of No Such Thing as Monsters is the spunky actress Angel Grafia. Her interactions with her boyfriend David are sincere, real, and often quite funny. She has a wonderful personality and is able to kick ass like the best of them when the chips are down and she needs to fight for her man. Grafia has only one arm and wears a mechanical hand. This aspect is never really paid attention to, and I love it that it doesn't become a major plot point or anything. Grafria's Mary is tough despite her disability, and this film really should be commended for not making a major deal and normalizing this aspect rather than bringing an unnecessary spotlight to it. No Such Thing as Monsters meanders around pointlessly for the middle 45 minutes. Because Mary and David are the prisoners of this weird family for 9+ months, it makes for some tedious and repetitious scenes until we finally get to the violent climax. I wish there had been more meat in the middle of this one, but it feels like the filmmakers had a decent beginning and ending all written, but nothing much connecting the two. This makes for a movie that felt longer than it actually was. Another pass at the script, filling in the lulls with interesting details and maybe a bit of explanation would have helped this one immensely. Welcome to the Circle is new on Blu-ray, DVD, digital download, and on demand from Artsploitation Films. It's written and directed by David Fowler. A man and his daughter are camping in the woods when it seems like a bear attack leaves them wounded and in need of shelter. Thankfully, a group of cultists called the Circle are nearby and take the two of them in. As the man mends, the little girl is indoctrinated into the cult, and both find themselves enmeshed in its bizarre beliefs and rituals. Surrounded by mannequins wearing masks, the cultists worship a deity called Percy Stevens, who transcended death long ago and still influences the cultists today. Meanwhile, a trio of investigators attempt to infiltrate the cult. One of them, a child member of the Circle, returns with vengeance and closure in mind, but finds it is harder to escape the Circle than he believed. I'll give it to Fowler, the writer and director of Welcome to the Circle. He has created a wild and odd little film here. Of course, filling scenes with mannequins and making live people wear emotionless masks is always going to be the stuff of nightmares, and this film has a lot of those scenes. On a sheer visual level, Welcome to the Circle has a way of squirming into your psyche and making you feel very uncomfortable. There are tons of scenes of these mannequins in realistic poses, with live actors among them, that works every time in making things feel nice and creepy. I also like the way the film intersperses black and white stock footage, which again adds to the eclectic and odd feel to the film. That said, I found Welcome to the Circle to be a tough pill to swallow when it comes to the inner logic and basic storytelling. If you're the type that needs the straightforward story, this one ain't it. There's some kind of inner logic going on here with the ways of the Circle, but I don't think the film does a great job of communicating it. Instead, the screenplay is highly obtuse, especially in regards to dialogue shared between those in the know about what's going on and those who haven't a clue. Usually in this instance, the clueless person in the film represents the viewer, and it's a good way of communicating complex material by having an expert of some kind guide the viewer around the rules of the game. But there really are no rules going on in Welcome to the Circle. With dialogue like the message is the meaning and the meaning is the message, and people talking about reigning over everything and nothing, There really is no explanation as to what's going on. It's just clever guru speak that seems deep and meaningful, but really only functions to take up space where an actual explanation could be. This goes on a little too long for my tastes, making this hour and 30-minute film feel double its length. Derelicts is new on demand and digital download from Terror Films. It also just premiered on the Kings of Horror Network. It's directed by Brett Glassberg and written by Andre Avrinos, Brett Glassberg, and Clay Shirley. It's Thanksgiving and the family is preparing to gather for a turkey dinner with all the fixins. Though each of the family have their own issues, they still plan to sit around the table and enjoy the day. Meanwhile, as another member of the family makes their way to the event, a group of deranged maniacs murder the travelers and show up to the dinner instead, taking the family hostage and making this dinner the worst Thanksgiving ever. Boiled down to basics, Derelicts is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre dinner scene extended to feature length. Brett Glassberg has taken the blueprint laid out by Tobe Hooper and the same kind of lowbrow grunge of Rob Zombie's Firefly trilogy, and delivered an hour and change long descent straight into hell. There's assault, there's torture, there's rape, there's all kinds of heinous and perverted horrors that to endure in Derelicts. This is a film that focuses on the horror and relishes it. It's not a film for the squeamish or the occasional horror fan. This is one for the diehards, and it does deliver quite a bit of terrifying moments, shocking scenes, and truly monstrous characters. There are a few standout cast members of Derelicts. Steve Uzzell delivers a strong performance as the leader of this monstrous crew. He's part Otis Firefly, part the cook from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with a little bit of Charlie Manson tossed in. I also really liked David Lee Hess, who plays the father of this terrorized family. He's able to play wholesome and abusive all at once and gives some real subtlety to the role. Kelly Dillon is great as the mother of the family who attempts to keep her cool during all of the mayhem since everyone else is falling apart. I also thought Emily Ammon, the actor playing the spiteful and drug-addicted younger daughter, delivers a strong presence here, especially when the family fights back against their captors. Finally, Andre Avrinos delivers a truly twisted and iconic villain in the childlike but monstrous Turk who wears a dirty teddy bear as a face mask. While this type of exploitative and horrifying grindhouser is not relatively original, it resembles a lot of the early home invasion films like Last House on the Left, Straw Dogs, and The Hills Have Eyes. It does feel rather refreshing to watch given the homogenized version of horror we often get from blockbuster films today. I was definitely put off by the actions going on in Derelicts, but that's the point of the film. It's supposed to wear you down and make you feel icky, and it's successful in doing that. That said, director Brett Glassberg really offers up a sense of style in many of the scenes. There are scenes that feel almost out of place in this grungy movie that show creative angles, interesting takes on cliches, and odd camera choices that make things feel like, despite the low-budget aspects of the film, that the filmmaker does have an eye for unique and complex imagery. I can't say I loved every minute of Derelicts, but I definitely was disgusted by the event that went on, and that seems to be the point of this demented little film. Finally, we have Halloween Party, which is available on demand and digital download from Red Hound Films. Halloween Party is directed and written by Jay Dahl. Grace, played by Amy Groening, seeks the aid of computer geek Spencer, played by T. Thomason, when she stumbles across a virus asking the user what their greatest fear is. When a few friends who receive the app end up dying from their greatest fear, the two students uncover a dark secret involving a closed-down hospital unit housing deformed children who created a monstrous curse to lash out on the perfect world that shunned them. And that hospital unit just so happens to be on the very site Grace's dorm room rests upon. Yes, the thread is rather convoluted, and also a little humorous, as it appears the kids in the hospital unit in the 90s were able to use their rudimentary knowledge of computing and limited computer resources on a hospital budget to create a virus that would threaten people in the present day. It's also kind of funny that when they uncover footage from those early days of computing, it looks like footage unearthed from the 50s. Nevertheless, this is a fun and occasionally scary little horror film. I found myself enchanted with the Goosebumps-style tale that incorporates everything and the kitchen sink to toss at a viewer in hopes to scare them. We have evil deformed children, environmental pollution, computer viruses, and all kinds of nightmare creatures that represent the cast's greatest fears. The film mixes body horror with elements of The Ring and even Final Destination, but does so in a clever way that feels somewhat original. Because the plot keeps moving and evolving, the story becomes rather unpredictable, and that's what I really look for in horror. There are quite a few well-choreographed fear sequences that utilize tension in a very smart way. There's even a sequence that takes place in the dark towards the end that might be Wreck/Quarantine-esque, but it still works really well. Halloween Party also has a very quirky and clever script that exhibits a sense of humor that is much stronger than most horror films. It also helps that the actors saying these quips, put-downs, retorts, and jokes are talented. Amy Groening and T. Thomason have great rapport with one another as they attempt to figure out this mystery, making them likable protagonists and worth the investment. I wish the film had a bigger budget for effects. Some of the practical effects work well. The pig man that shows up early is surprisingly well done, as it appears it is a pig wearing a cartoonish pig mask over its pig face, a nightmarish image indeed. But when the film relies on CG effects, they're over the top and look like they were rendered from a very rudimentary computer program. Still, director-writer Jay Dahl limits the amount of CG effects, though he does have a tendency to shove them in your face for jump scares. I was really taken with Halloween Party. It's not necessarily a Halloween movie per se, as the hospital called all of the gatherings of the evil kids a Halloween party because they wore masks all of the time. If you're missing the month of October already, check out Halloween Party, and I think you'll be surprisingly spooked. That'll be it for today. Please chime in the comments and let me know what you think of this video, how on the nose or mind-numbingly wrong I am, or you can counter with your own review. If you like this video, please pound that thumbs up button. Share this video with your social media addicted pals. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on mlmillerwrites.com. Don't forget, I have 2 new horror comic book trade paperbacks you should look for. Grave Trancers is out right now, and Pirouette, collecting never-before-published issues, will be out in November 18th in only the finest of comic book stores. And be sure to subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for alerts to be the first to see my future videos. Thank you so much for your time, and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your